Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
So this happened not too long ago when my boyfriend and I decided to go fishing at a public park. It's one of our favorite things to do on weekends. There is not a lot of fishing spots with a lake for miles around, so we usually head to this one particular park. We love catching catfish, and this park is known for having lots of them. We had just settled into our chairs, all ready to catch some catfish when the trouble began. First, let me introduce you to the cast of characters. There is me, my boyfriend, and then there is the entitled mom, along with her 3 entitled kids, entitled kid 1, 2, and 3. My boyfriend and I usually like to take a little walk around the lake before we pick our fishing spot. It's during one of these walks that we spotted a massive catfish, easily about 4 feet long. We were excited and ready to start fishing, but then the peace was shattered by the arrival of the 3 bratty kids. They set up about 8 feet away from us, right near a spot where turtles like to sunbathe. At first, they started messing with the turtles, and my boyfriend, being a nature lover, couldn't stand it. He shouted at them to knock it off. Instead of listening, they walked over to us, and one of them was holding a dead snake. A pine snake to be specific. Now this really upset my boyfriend because pine snakes are endangered in our state. He ignored the snake for a moment and told them to put the turtle back in the water. The response, "We're not hurting them." My boyfriend insisted that they were disturbing the turtles and that's not allowed in the park. The entitled kid number 2, the one holding the snake, carelessly said, "Who cares?" My boyfriend, now getting increasingly frustrated, told him that he cared. He asked him to put the turtles back in the water and inquired about why they had killed the snake. They claimed it was because the snake was poisonous, which did not make any sense since there are no poisonous snakes in our state, and pine snakes are harmless. My boyfriend reiterated that they shouldn't have killed the snake, to which they, once again heartlessly said, "Who cares?" At this point, my boyfriend informed them that they were disturbing the wildlife, which is not allowed in the park. He gave them an ultimatum: leave or face arrest. And that's when the kids pulled a classic move of deflecting by saying, "But you were killing fish." Now that hit a nerve with my boyfriend because we're conscientious fishermen. We either release a fish back into the water or, if necessary, we kill them humanly. He explained this to them, but the kids wouldn't back down. So my boyfriend got up and with determination he walked towards them. The kids, fearing the consequences of their actions, quickly scampered away. We thought that was the end of it, but boy, were we wrong. About 30 minutes later, the kids returned, but this time they brought reinforcement in the form of their mom. The most stereotypical Karen you could imagine. It seems there is an abundance of them in our state. She immediately confronted us, asking why we were harassing her kids. My boyfriend explained to her that her kids had killed a snake. Her response? "But it was self-defense." My boyfriend, now exasperated, corrected her, explaining that the snake wasn't dangerous. However, Karen was not interested in facts. She was convinced she knew better and dismissed his knowledge. Then she noticed the giant catfish we had caught, which had us really excited, but Karen had other ideas. She accused us of abusing animals, and my boyfriend tried to explain that we had all the proper licenses and that we treated the fish humanly. And that's when Karen decided to take matters into her own hands. She ran up, grabbed the catfish, and hurled it back into the water. We were both shocked and outraged because that was theft. My boyfriend informed her of this, and Karen claimed that the fish didn't belong to anyone because it's a living thing. We told her about the law that stated once you catch a fish, it becomes your property, but Karen was having none of it. She started yelling about how fishing should be illegal. Then she did something truly outrageous. She ran into the water, made a gigantic splash and shouted, "No more fishing!" This was clearly harassment, and my boyfriend called her out on it. But Karen never wanted to back down, accused us of being the real criminals. At this point, my boyfriend decided to take action. He informed Karen that she had committed 2 crimes. and he was going to perform a citizen's arrest and turn her into the police, which is legal in our state. I think the realization of how serious this was started to get dawned on her because my boyfriend was much taller and more intimidating. In a panic, she reached into her purse, pulled out a can of pepper spray, and sprayed it right into my boyfriend's face. I couldn't stand by and watch this happen, so I ran after her and she rushed to her car, kids in tow, and we managed to keep a hold of her until the police arrived. The police arrived and they took Karen away in handcuffs. We went with them to the station to press charges. It was quite an ordeal and we couldn't just leave the entitled kids alone. So we stayed with them until their father arrived to take them home. Karen was definitely not going to be heading home anytime soon. I had a problem with my neighbor for so many years. He was the kind of guy who terrorized the whole neighborhood. A real troublemaker. To make things worse, he was a drug addict and dealer, but that wasn't my problem. At least it shouldn't have been. His actions brought all sorts of unsavory people into the area, and they did all sorts of terrible things, like breaking into houses and cars, stealing packages, and causing chaos. I knew it was connected to him because he had confessed that his friends were the ones causing all this trouble. I'd even seen CCTV footage from other neighbors showing his buddies damaging cars and property. He wasn't content with just causing mayhem in the area. He had stolen bank cards that came in the mail, made an obnoxious amount of noise that would wake me up in the middle of the night, and his friends or fiends would often ring my doorbell around 2 or 3 a.m. I had shouted at them so many times and even argued with him about it. What made the situation even worse was that my neighbor had been in prison multiple times for various serious crimes. You'd think he tried to keep a low profile as a free man, but that wasn't the case. We lived in a house converted into apartments, with 4 units and a main area downstairs for walking through and where mail was delivered. He constantly left the main door open despite me asking him not to, allowing his friends to come and go as they pleased. Sometimes they would even kick the door down and trash the area. The worst part of all was when I would order a package, and if I wasn't home, the couriers would leave the package unattended in the front garden or the main area outside my door. Despite my explicit instructions not to, my package would disappear within seconds, and I knew it was my neighbor and his friends. This had been going on for years, and when confronted, he denied, but I was certain it was him. The other 2 apartments in the building were occupied by older people whom I was friendly with, and they also disliked him. The problem was that I never had any concrete proof to pin him down. I once called the police after he wrote a note apologizing for his friend stealing my package, but that went nowhere. This time I wasn't going to let over 250 pounds worth of stolen packages go unanswered. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I set up a security camera in the main area, I saved the boxes from some other packages, placed an apple and some plastic bags in them for weight, and set them outside. It didn't take long for his friend to snatch them up, not realizing there was a camera watching. Gotcha. I called the police, who commended me on my surveillance skills, and they arrived, but by the time they got there, the guy had already left the building, taking bags that were definitely filled with drugs to sell. However, they assured me they would keep an eye out for him. A few weeks later, I received a call from the police. I also informed them that I was absolutely certain he was selling Class A drugs and terrorizing the area. They said they would come to visit. 5 days passed, and at 7 a.m. I received a call from the same officer, asking me to open the door quickly and quietly. I did as I instructed and saw about 15 plainclothes officers hiding behind a wall. I looked through the peephole and then they stormed inside, kicked down his door and arrested everyone inside. It turned out his apartment was basically a crack house. They seized boxes of drugs. All of this was caught on the camera I had installed. So I sent the footage to the landlord, and the police also got in touch with the landlord, and as a result, my troublesome neighbor was evicted. That was a month ago. None of his email had been picked up, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Anyways, the moral of the story here? Well, keep your hands to yourself. So, I have a story for you of my time working at Walmart. This is when I first started out at Walmart back in 2014. I was assigned to the electronics counter. It was near nighttime and a photo center was closed. It was only me at the stand while others were on break, somewhere in the store or at lunch. Plus, business was slow, so it was fine when I was by myself. But oh boy was I wrong. It was about 15 minutes that passed when a teenager, the entitled daughter of our story, came up to the counter and placed a cell phone and a box on the counter while I was helping a father, who will be my hero in this story, and you will see why later. I asked the father if he would be alright by himself while I helped another customer, and he was fine with it, browsing the children movie section. I was about to ask how I can help her, but she just held her hand up at me. I remember this very well when she did that.
I want a refund on this phone. It doesn't work with the plan I have,
the entitled daughter says. I looked at the phone and it was a Walmart plan we run with T-Mobile. It's usually not the greatest, but it's a good start on a cell phone plan before switching to the bigger ones. And when I looked at the receipt, I already knew this was going to be a handful. To those that do not know, all electronics items can be refunded, but you have to return it within 15 days to get it, especially when it's cell phones. Other items are usually 30 or 90 days, depending on the department. And when I looked at the receipt, it was way past the 15-day policy, so I couldn't return it. I tell her, "I'm sorry ma'am, but I can't refund this, as it has passed the 15 days return policy." And oh boy, did the entitled daughter not like this.
What do you mean? My mom and I were here a few days ago when we got this thing.
"I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm looking at the receipt on the day you purchased this cell phone and it's way past our policy." "I am sorry, but there is nothing that I can do." The entitled daughter lets out a growl and huffs before storming away with the cell phone and receipt. I sighed deeply and leaned into the counter. My hero then came with a few movies and saw the whole thing. "That's pretty rough to deal with, huh?" I just laughed at that and scanned his items. "Oh, you have no idea, sir. And this is just my first month here." We both had a good laugh, and when I gave him his receipt, I saw the entitled daughter once again. But this time with her entitled mother in tow. I knew I was in trouble. The entitled mother shrieks, "You!
Why wouldn't you give my daughter her money back? We brought everything."
"I understand that, ma'am, but you passed our return policy. Even if I scan it, the serial number wouldn't be in our system anymore." The entitled mother then yelled at me to get the manager while calling me a few colorful names as well. While I phoned management, the mother and daughter had a smug grin on their face like they had one. And soon a manager came by and asked what was the problem.
"Yes, your employee was rude to us and won't refund my daughter's cell phone she paid for a few days ago. I want my money now, and this brat fired."
Seriously, who does this over cell phones? But then again, Walmart. Wally World is also crazy people world. The manager looked over at me and I tried to explain what was happening, but the entitled mother kept interrupting me while calling me names until my manager saw the receipt. One look at the date and he knew what was up. "Okay ma'am, two things. One, do not cuss at my employee. She's doing her job. And two, you bought this phone a month ago. We can't refund you for the cell phone because the serial number is no longer on the system. This is our policy." The entitled mother and daughter frowned at that and then started to cuss at me and my manager for not helping them and not letting them have their money back. My hero was watching the whole thing and he stood between us and them. "Ma'am, you need to calm down. And you need to control your daughter as well," he tells him. The entitled daughter says,
"This is none of your business."
Then her mother adds,
"And why should I do what you say about my daughter? They are the ones that won't help us."
She points at me and my manager. What happened next was something that I still remember to this day. My hero pulled out his wallet and showed a police badge. He was an off-duty cop. He tells him, "I suggest either you two calm down right now or so help me. I will escort you both out in cuffs. This is no way to act out in public. You need to set a better example for your daughter and you need to control that mouth of yours, kid." The entitled mother and her entitled daughter were dead silent and pale before grabbing a cell phone and a box, then running off. My hero turned over to us and apologized for not stepping in sooner. My manager told him it was fine, but I was still dumbfounded that I was helping an off-duty cop. My hero gave the manager his badge number in case those two came back and then thanked me for suggesting a few Disney and DreamWorks movies for his kids. He told me he had a young son and a daughter. Before leaving, my manager asked me if I was okay and I told him I was still baffled that my hero was a cop and I didn't know that. And what was also funny, karma at its finest, that a few days later the entitled mother and daughter did the same thing again, but at a different Walmart, and they were both arrested for assault on an officer and resisting arrest. My hero was talking to my manager while I was on lunch and then told me when I came back. So my hero, if you are out there or reading this post, thank you for helping me out that night. A close friend of mine is getting married in April. She selected 4 of us to be in her wedding party in addition to her sister. We're all in our late 20s/early 30s. I've known her for several years and already knew that her wedding, whenever that day happened, would be elaborate. She wants to do group activities with all the ladies, including a mini trip away into the mountains for spa things, wine tasting and hiking. Although I did mention that a mountain hike in a week/months leading up to D-Day is ill-advised. I was totally stoked and grateful, until she told us that she hired a trainer and nutrition coach for the bridal party, meaning weekly workouts and tailored eating plans and so on. She says she just wants us all to look our best for the pictures and fit into the dresses. She's worried about bad atheistics. I think this is a bit over the top and kind of inappropriate. Only one other bridesmaid had spoken up besides me, but she super quickly changed her tune after the bride said that she'd already spent so much money on everything. I'm recovering from anorexia/orthorexia and no one in the party knows about it because it's none of their business. I'm not comfortable with this at all. And honestly, all these women, including the bride, are so vain and body conscious that I can't bear the next 6 months listening to them. I told her this and she wasn't happy at all, played the "I've never had a special day" card and reminded me that she's paying for literally everything and I'm being the ungrateful jerk here. My boyfriend softly agrees because 1, he's a groomsman and it will be awkward, and 2, he thinks if I tell her about my ED, she'll understand. I shouldn't have to disclose that information. So would I be the jerk for dropping out of the whole ordeal and/or skipping the whole event? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. Eating disorder aside, I'm not making light of your condition. You shouldn't be forced into any situation you are not comfortable with. It's perfectly acceptable to say it isn't for you without having to disclose your personal circumstances. Also, what kind of weirdo hires a trainer and nutritionist for a bridal party?" Another commenter adds, "Not that jerk. You should not have to disclose your medical history to decline the trainer and dietitian. I would say once for medical reasons, typical dietary advice is not a good idea for me. If that wasn't enough for the pride to drop it, I will prioritize health and recovery." A third commenter goes with, "Your AD is none of her business. Do not be bullied into revealing anything that you don't want to reveal. As for making everyone in a wedding party exercise and have a particular diet, as overseen by someone in the bride's employees so she can manage the wedding's atheistic, this is incredibly intrusive and quite offensive. I would suggest that you tell her that you don't want to participate in a training and so on, with zero explanation, and that if she needs you to step down because of this, you understand. In my humble opinion, getting out of being part of this particular wedding will be a blessing in disguise." A fourth commenter adds, "Not that jerk. Even without you recovering from anorexia or orthorexia, it's messed up. The bride cares about the bad atheistics over just being happy that her friends want to be there for her. Working out takes time. Whatever this eating plan is, takes time and probably your money. and she's not in charge of your buddies. I don't think this is your friend, to be honest, and if she's this controlling, you dropping out will be a definite friendship ender. It doesn't sound like you really like her despite calling her a close friend. Your boyfriend should have your back rather than be concerned about this being awkward. I'm not saying he needs to drop out of the wedding, but he should be furious. This jerk bride is dictating so much for no reason.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.